Tennessee football was back out on the grass for day 2 of spring practice. Now that that's in the books, here are a couple of things I think we should all know following day 2 of Tennessee football practice. 1, Boo Carter's getting reps on offense. Ricky Gibson's decision to stay is huge for an otherwise depleted room. And 3, the one freshman receiver I think we should all know. I'm Paige Dower. This is the Field Pass on full disclosure. Let's just go ahead and get right into it. Boo Carter on offense is the development all of us were waiting to really learn more about. We probably can all flash back to last season, and I'm sure you remember when Nico Imaliava was talking at the mic about maybe getting Boo Carter on offense and what that looks like, and that gets all of our wheels spinning, and we get really excited because of what he was able to do earlier in his career. Now, as a sophomore in some off-season talks, he is now getting reps at the wide receiver position. But what will that really look like? What will his role look like as spring practice and fall and this season comes along? At this point in time, he's not going to be a Travis Hunter who's getting, 50-50 with his snaps or close to 100% of the snaps he's out on the field. His primary role and load will still be on the defensive side of the ball, especially after we consider what he did a year ago at the star position and how disruptive he really was and how he really took on that role when there were so many question marks around it. He was a true menace out on the field a season ago at that position. So I think when we look realistically, what will his role be? It's mostly going to be on defense. But I think when you consider the types of players that can force coaches to coach differently because of their talents, Boo Carter certainly has to be one of those. I think all of you probably know at least one player who's done that to a coach, whether a favorite NFL team or otherwise. I think locally here, we can look at Jemai Meshack. A year ago, his development on the defensive side of the ball became such a key part to his game and affected games so positively in favor for Tennessee that it forced Rick Barnes and the coaching staff to play him differently, to put him in different scenarios, to now where he really is an overall complete and well-rounded player. I think Boo Carter could be someone like that because his talents are so raw and he's so talented that he maybe sees more snaps when SEC play comes around because of what he's able to do and was kind of forcing their hand. Part of my reasoning behind that is when you hear the way players talk about him, when you hear the way coaches talk about him, and then obviously what your eyes tell you what he did a year ago. But I think when we can go straight from what some of the players are saying, we're like, okay, I really actually want to see him on offense a little bit more. What does that development look like? So when we hear from Travis Smith, the 4-star out of Atlanta, you may want to start listening to what he has to say, especially because, he was a top 20 prospect out of the state, not only in his position group, but out of the state itself. He was in 6A, and he did a fantastic job in 6A. I spent 4 years in the state of Georgia working in sports, and that's an elite class. 6 and 7A is really, truly great football. So understanding the types of players that he went up against, the other types of receivers that he saw, you're like, all right, maybe if he starts talking about someone's athleticism jumping out at him, you might want to start paying attention, and that's exactly what he had to say about Boo.
Another dog. He quick. He's really twitchy too. So just having him right beside you, just being able to be so twitchy and get out the way and maneuver like that is awesome to see. So I think Boo, he got a bright future at both sides of the ball.
And similar to guys like Travis Hunter, what makes Boo Carter really special when he decides that he wants to be on offense is because of his experience that he now has on the defensive side of the ball, spending one whole year now in collegiate football. His IQ is a lot higher than what it was when he first got here. So if he's going to start taking snaps at that wide receiver position, he understands, he has better eye discipline and IQ, that he really probably could even take an even greater step forward because of that baseline knowledge that he now has. So that's definitely one thing that we need to keep our eye on. The other thing, Ricky Gibson deciding to stay. I know that a couple of weeks ago and leading really up until last week, there was some discussion if he was going to stay or go. What does the money look like? that I'm not necessarily going to get into. There are people better suited for that. But what I can tell you is his decision to stay and whatever deal they did work out is a massive get for Tennessee in an otherwise depleted room, especially when you consider Javon McCoy going down with, I think it was that ACL tear. So to have a guy like Ricky Gibson, who was a part of that tandem with Jermon McCoy a year ago. They were one of the best duos, especially in the conference. For him to come back is huge because they don't have a ton of starting experience. Of course, Jacoby Thomas and Jeremiah Telander got meaningful snaps a season ago, but to have a starter like Gibson be there adds so much experience and depth to that room, so much so that defensive coordinator Tim Banks says that his decision to stay and his contributions expected moving forward is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Ricky's done a really good job here over the last 2 years, and having him out there has been awesome. Awesome for him, and obviously awesome for some of the young guys. So, but we got, Andre Tarantine, who's back, who's played some football for us, and Jacoby was a new comer last year that, played a lot of football for us. And, we feel like we have some guys that have played, to be able to blend in with some of these younger guys that hopefully when we're done with this spring ball, we've taken another step in that back end.
I also have full highlights from day 2 of spring practice linked here in the description, but also you can find it on the homepage under practice highlights for day 2 of spring practice. If you enjoyed that, please subscribe so I can continue to do that as spring practice and other practices continue. One other player, especially in the defensive back room, that we should keep our eye on is Trey Poteet. He's a newcomer to Tennessee, but I think he has a real chance to be special, or so the coaches believe he can be. I think his greatest foundation is because he is a coach's son. So all of those practice habits, the fundamentals, how to adjust, his IQ, and just understanding the rhythm of how football goes is his greatest asset. Again, all of that going back to his foundation because he's a coach's son. For him to be able to develop and learn from guys like Ricky Gibson or Jeremiah Telander in that defensive back room, I think will be huge for his development here. But defensive coordinator Tim Banks added that he is exactly what they hoped he would be. He has not been a disappointment at all and can be someone that really elevates that room from the bottom up. Now, the player I teased to at the very beginning as someone I think we should keep an eye on is someone you heard from at the very beginning of this episode, and Travis Smith, again, a top 20 prospect nationally and from the state of Georgia, the 4-star. He's from Westlake near Atlanta, Georgia, and he had a fantastic senior season. He had 64 catches for over 1,300 yards. He had 15 touchdowns, a great contributor in that 6A class, which again is a massive class with tons of stacked talent out of the state of Georgia. For him, one, he has a ton of personality, and I always find that exciting for a wide receiver. If a wide receiver has confidence, he's going to be good, especially inside the mental side of the game. And it was funny learning too that he says that he was chirping a little bit with Boo Carter when they were both on the wide receiver line. And I always find that funny when newcomers and new guys are already having that type of connection and jawing with each other. But I think how he will develop will be huge. He says he's learning a lot from a guy like Matthews, who had a really nice, tough catch earlier today at practice. And to learn from guys like that and knowing that a lot of guys left, it's kind of open hunting for the wide receiver room and what will he be able to do? How will he seize his opportunities? Again, that confidence I think will go a long way for the freshman, but standing at 6'3", his length and size is surely a great asset for him. And part of what he tells me he believes is his strongest skill set.
It's important to make the right decisions, like when to go for it on 4th down, or when to kick the field goal or go for the touchdown. It's also important to make the right insurance decisions too. That's why my office, Trey McAdams State Farm, is here to help you select the right protection at the right price. Our office will make sure you understand your State Farm coverages so you'll know what to expect when the unexpected happens. With Trey McAdams State Farm, it's easy to make the right call. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Proud sponsor of the Tennessee Vols.
Really going up and getting the ball for real. That's always fun. So yeah, just going up.
So you were doing a little bit of that today. Like, how much fun do you have with those one-on-ones?
It was fun. It was one I should have had, but we're going to get back to it. You know what I'm saying? That's how I'm going to get it.
And also, if you want to hear more from the players, from the coaches, you can go to the links here also in the description, or you can go back to the homepage under the bonus tab for more of what the coaches and players had to say. Again, please subscribe if that's the type of content that you like, so I know to continue to produce such content. But I will talk to you guys later this week, especially as we get closer to the SEC tournament for men's basketball, and you got baseball, softball, so much going on here at Rocky Top. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the daily conversation. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.